Welcome to the Home Team Sacramento podcast. I'm Josh Takimoto, and today we have the head coach of Whitney Baseball, Jackson Watt. What's going on, Coach?
Nothing much, having a good Wednesday night here, ready to talk some baseball, talk some coaching. How
Yeah,
you
man,
doing?
I love it. I played baseball in my whole life. Through high school. Didn't play much my junior and senior year. People that's well established on those podcasts now, but I still love the game. Played in some adult leagues after high school, which is I don't know how much you did because I know you played some ball in college, so you probably didn't dabble too much in the adult
I've done a
hard
little
ball.
bit of adult league here and there, but it's humbling. So I'm still young. I'm 28, so
Oh,
there's still
nice.
some dudes who can ball in those leagues, and I don't
Oh,
play as
for
much
sure.
anymore. So it's tough. I've gone out there a couple times, but for the most part, I'm sticking to coaching right now.
I gotcha. It's they're fun leagues, but they're weird. That's all I'm gonna say. They're weird leagues
Yeah.
because you get a weird mix of guys who just graduate either high school or college who are still fresh off of it. We had a guy that was probably pushing 50 that played at a pretty high level, and then everything in between. But it's a weird mix of personalities and levels of competition. So it's fun, but I always tell people the last game I played it was like my second or third year playing. We were in the championship. We were getting blown out, and our pitcher started barking at one of the fans. And we're like, "What is going on right now?" It was this older guy that was the dad of one of the guys that was on the other team. And then they started going at it. Well, this guy, you don't realize it, but he's in a wheelchair, and he starts rolling up
Oh
the field
no.
like, "No, no, no, you can't
Oh
come out here
no.
and fight this man." Like, what are we doing? And our pitcher started walking towards the dugout. I'm like, geez. That's when I hung him up. Like, you know what? Maybe I need to take a break from this. This is
Yeah.
not what I signed up for. This is
Yeah. It's a
wild.
tough look.
Yeah, it's not great. But anyways, we're here to talk about more important things than that. So, man, there's so much I want to talk to you about, including obviously last season you guys won the section title, right?
Yeah.
Which was the
Yeah.
first time for Whitney High School, which was pretty sweet. And I want to get into that, but before we go there, man, I need to know a little bit more about your background. What's your coaching, athletic background, and then how did you get where you are today?
Yeah. If I start at the beginning, born and raised in Rockland, California, right here. My family's the Rucola family, my mom's side. So there's a park, there's a school named after our family here in Rockland. So this town means a lot to me.
Yeah.
Been here all my life. I went to Whitney High School, graduated in 2012. Then I got the opportunity to go up to Willamette University in Salem, Oregon, play a little Division III ball. I was a pitcher. Did a little bit of everything. My freshman year, I was kind of a middle relief guy. Had like a 7 ERA. And I came back that summer. I just wasn't satisfied. It was really like a light switch. I wasn't great in high school in
Mm-hmm.
terms of baseball. I was kind of just good enough. I was the closer, kind of pitcher only guy on our high school team, and I was throwing high 70s, low 80 with like a little sinker slider.
Okay.
And then I went off to college with kind of the same repertoire and got humbled quite a bit my freshman year. Came back my sophomore year with a new mindset, got after it, and I was all conference as a closer that year. And then fought through some injuries my junior and senior year. Pitched a lot. I've the second most appearances all time at Willamette,
Wow.
whether it was in save situations or I had quite a few starts as well. There are situations where I'd start on Saturday, come in on Sunday, and try to slam the door. But that junior and senior year, because that I had some shoulder issues and kind of fought through it. And I was pitcher of the week a few more times, but never really got back to that form I had my sophomore year. So at that point, I kind of figured out, well, I love the game of baseball. I want to stay in it. It's been an amazing run. And it was either I can go try to play indie ball, and there are some possibilities there. And no knock to indie ball, but it just kind of feels like delaying the inevitable for where I was. I mean, I wasn't going to be anybody who was going to crack professional baseball in the MLB any sort. I think I topped out at 88. That was the hardest I ever threw. So at that point, I got my teaching credential, and that first year, right after I graduated, I went and I was the pitching coach at Ponderosa High School
Okay.
with my
Nice.
cousin Ben Peterson. He won a section there actually the next year. But I was up there with him for that first year, learned a lot. I was still 21 when I was coaching with him that first year. And then the Whitney job opened up. I went over and applied. It was an interesting experience for sure, because it was a lot of my former teachers, because I graduated from Whitney just a few years prior. I went to college for 4 years, coached at Pondo for a year, and then boom, I'm the head coach at Whitney at 21 that first fall. And looking back, it was on the job training, Josh. So there's all kinds of things that I've learned along the way. I would definitely do differently, but it all led us to where we are now. So I got the baseball job first, and I was
Okay.
still working on my teaching credential online and subbing every day, and really just kind of living at the school. And I still do to a point there. But I'm a full-time teacher at Whitney High School now, and I teach social science, so world history, geography, the Gov Econ class. I'm assistant athletic director as well, so I'm doing a lot
Jeez,
of stuff
man.
managing the winter sports right now.
Okay.
But it's kind of evolved into this really big thing. I've really fallen in love with teaching, and I think that's a big part of becoming a good coach as well. So that's kind of my journey from a professional standpoint. Went away, learned a few things, come back. So yeah.
That's awesome, man. Man, you really packed a lot in there for, in a short amount of time. And then, man, I have so many questions just based off of what you said. First of all, we were kind of talking beforehand. This is our first time. We followed each other on Twitter for quite a while, but
Yeah.
this is our first conversation. And so I didn't realize that you were from the Rockland area, and then also went to Whitney and then went back to coaching. That's always a cool thing. We've had a couple of coaches on here that did a very similar thing. And at some point, we've had Casey Taylor on here, eventually made his way back to Oak Ridge High School.
Mm-hmm.
Cody Norman, used to be the girls basketball coach at Laguna Creek High School, made his way back to Laguna Creek. And so it's interesting because you were really young when you took that job at Whitney, but
Yeah.
How was it exciting? Did it make you nervous? Like, what was all the different emotions that you were feeling when you got that job? I mean, I imagine part of you was like, this is pretty cool. But then there's another side. It's like you said, these are the same teachers that were grading my papers and my tests, a few years ago.
Yeah, I kind of had to figure out who I was, really is the biggest thing with that. It's difficult because you're trying to figure out, like, do I call my coworkers by their first name? It's
Sure.
like,
Yeah.
it's some interesting kind of awkward positions there. It's almost growing up in the job that you really decided you wanted when you're in college. It's like, hey, like, I mean, when I go to get my teaching credential and decide I'm not going to pursue the professional baseball world, like, that's the ideal job for me at that point, is the head baseball coach at my old high school. And then to get it at 21, it's kind of an awkward position where you got to grow up in it from there. So like I said, learned a lot along the way. Very, very grateful for it. And if anything, it taught me to work as hard as I can to do what I can for these kids, just because it's where I come from. I see myself in every one of them. So.
Right. Now, so you were 21 when you took that job. Now, I'm not good at math, but so did you coach any of the guys that you played with?
I didn't know. So I was super young. I was one of those 17-year-old high school graduates. I had to sit in the big auditorium hall at Willamette that first year and go raise my hand and say, hey, can you send these papers to my mom and dad so they can sign them so I can play college sports?
That's awesome.
So yeah, I was a young birthday for that. So I ended up I spent that year after college at Pondo and then straight to Whitney.
Okay. Because
there's a little gap. Yeah. But I do have, I've had a couple younger brothers come through at this point. I mean, there's plenty of small town feels in Rockland for sure.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, I grew up in Orangeville my whole life. And so, yeah, I get that for sure. And especially like if, like you said, with your family being, like parks being named after your family and your family being known in the community, that would be an interesting dynamic. Because I mean, even though you're not coaching former teammates, but you are, the families, they know your family. And so that is an interesting dynamic. And yeah, that's what we always talk about with younger coaches. Like, man, how difficult was making that transition to coaching? Because, I've seen some guys that I played ball with, and then some guys that I just know that go on and coach, they really struggled their first year because there's so much of that. They played at a pretty high level, and there's so much raw passion that they still have as a competitor. They're trying to go back into it. And there's a lot of frustration because for a season, they forget they're working with high schoolers. and then they don't have the same maybe maturity, or they don't have the same intensity that that first young coach has. So how is that for you? I mean, obviously you played in college, and you played at a high level. Did you struggle with that, or was that part of it fairly easy to kind of, glide into?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. I definitely struggled with that. And I think a lot of that also comes with you're projecting all the things you don't know onto the kids at times, and you're trying to really figure out everything from scheduling to writing a good practice plan to creating good plans for player development and handling the behavior side of it as well, and setting good expectations for your program. There's so much that goes into being a head coach of a program. I mean, managing the personalities of your assistants and lower level head coaches who are much older than you as well. So there's a lot packed into that, on top of the fact that anybody that becomes a head coach is probably extremely hyper competitive
Right.
and is trying to find a way to win at all costs, but at the same time trying to listen to that voice of reason and remember that it's about more than baseball. You can't let that define who you are, and there's bigger things at stake here. But I definitely struggled with that growing in that position for several years. And I'm still growing every day with it. I still make mistakes all the time. Your own worst critic, but definitely it's a huge challenge for young head coaches out there. And especially, I mean, it's a two-way street. The kids know you're young too, so they're going to test you,
Right.
and it's harder to get that initial respect, and it's harder to create that structure and community that you want in a baseball program.
Well, and like you said, you are a teacher on campus as well. And so you're not only a young coach, but you're also a young teacher. And so you're getting tested basically all day. Because like you said, 100%, my wife's a teacher, and, and she started at a young age too. And so it's the same thing. It's like, yeah, they want to test you because they realize that you look a lot like them. They mistake you on campus. Like, oh, like, hey, get back to class. Like, no, you hold up the badge, right? It's like, hey, I'm a teacher. My classroom's right
Yeah,
over there.
yeah,
All of those different things. And it's a different dynamic for sure. But we've talked a lot on this podcast about on-campus coaches and the value in that. Like, it's anybody who is willing to take the time and effort to coach, amazing. But there's a different level of, I guess, benefits when you are an on-campus coach. And let me ask you this too, kind of along with this question. Now, do you live in the community as well?
yeah. I live smack dab in the middle of Rockland.
So you're just in it
Yeah,
all the
so I'm
time.
I'm in it. Yep, yep. See the kids at the grocery store, at the gym, wherever, so it's just a part of it. So
Now, do you, because I
I
know
think it's
some, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a good thing though, living and being in the middle of it and being on campus, because I mean we preach how you do one thing's how you do everything, and when kids can see how you live your life, I think that truly helps as well, and helps them with connection and helps you with connection with them too.
Man, I'm glad you said that. I said that last episode. I just did a short solo episode, and I said that exact same thing. Like, and living in the community gives you that opportunity, like you said,
Yeah,
like, because I always say, like, the words you speak as a coach are only as powerful as the life that you lead. And,
yeah,
I
that's
understand.
awesome.
I understand why coaches and teachers don't necessarily want to always live in the same community. I get that. But a lot of respect for coaches and teachers who are willing to do that, because you're signing up for it. You're like, hey, like you said, I'm letting you guys see every part of my life, you know? And so that's also some pressure too. Like, do you feel like, is that something you wanted, or do you feel the pressure sometimes, or is it just like, hey, this is just part of the job?
I think it's just part of the job, and I think it's something that's important as well. I mean, like you said, they're going to see every part of your life, and I think there's stuff that you go through throughout a season, throughout a school year that kids need to know about, because you want to know about them and be able to help them. You want to love on them and help them figure out who they're going to be, and you need to know their story in order to do that. I mean, there's big things that happen in these kids' lives every day. I know it's Rockland, and people see it as a very rich suburb, but there's all kinds of things that we don't know about under the surface that are going on. So the more that we can be out present in the open and be honest with kids, I mean, the more they're willing to work with you, and the more they understand, and the more you understand them. So I think that's the big thing for me, really, in terms of that. I mean, not to drop a bomb on you, but I lost my dad last April in the middle of
Mm,
all of our baseball season, and
wow.
that wasn't something that I ran from at all. It was something that I felt was important for the kids to know, all the way from fall all the way through. Lost his battle with cancer
Mm,
right there. But like, I think that's something that they should know, because I would want to know that they're going through something as well. So I think that's a big part of it, being in the community, being open and honest with your players, because that's what you expect of them at the end of the day too.
that's really good. Well, man, I'm sorry for your loss for sure. Um, yeah, and I can't imagine. I had no clue, and obviously, and especially at that point of your season as well. I
Yeah.
mean, that's a lot of stuff going on. But I have much respect, man, to the fact that you wanted to be that open and honest with your athletes, because you're absolutely right. You know, a lot of coaches want to preach that, right? Like, hey, we're here for you, we're here for you. But then there's some coaches that, when it comes to them, they bottle it up. They're not going to share that. But man, and these are, you know, you said it too. Like, this is bigger than just baseball. Obviously, we always say it every single week. We want to win. We're all competitive. I'm competitive when it comes to this podcast. Like, we all want to be competitive, but at the end of the day, the things that you guys are teaching your athletes, the things you guys are showing them with the way you lead your lives, these are things that will go on forever if it's taught in the correct way, right? Like, you can either have a really
Yeah.
positive impact that's going to change their life for the better, or some coaches unfortunately have a negative impact that's going to, you know, potentially send their athlete in the wrong direction. And so, man, much respect to your perspective on that, especially at a young age, man. Like, because you are a young coach, and there's coaches that have been doing it for a minute and still don't have that perspective, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's just a part of it, getting through that whole thing. But you're 100% right. I mean, we're all hyper competitive, and that's the biggest struggle. We can't let what we do define who we are,
Right.
whether it's podcast or baseball coach or whatever it is. But I mean, we're here for a reason. We're all have that trait that makes us have that fire and want to go win and attack every day. And it can be all consuming. So we've got to find a way to balance that out.
Right. Now, speaking of winning, like I said, you guys did win the section championship last year, which is awesome. I remember when I was a freshman in high school, I went to go watch our varsity team play, and they won the section title. At that time, the D2 section title, out in Lodi. And I remember just watching that and seeing the excitement of that game. It's wild. The whole thing is just wild. So,
Yeah.
you know, I guess a couple of things. I was reading an article earlier today from Joe Davison after you guys won, and he was saying that, you know, the years leading up to last year, some rougher seasons, right? You know, I don't know, they weren't as many wins, right? It seemed like the record wasn't
Mhm.
as great, and then to go from that and then all of a sudden winning a section championship, such a roller coaster. So, first question, based on the whole section championship situation, how did you stay positive as a coach? Because there's a lot of coaches in the area. Like, not everybody can win, and not everybody can have a winning season, and not everybody can win a championship, let alone like a league title. There's a lot of coaches that are dealing with situations where it's like each year they go in thinking like it's gonna be another rough one, and we just gotta kind of bear down and deal with it. How did you deal with some of the losing seasons or the seasons that didn't go the way you were hoping? Like, how did you stay positive to the point where you guys were able to win a section championship last year?
Yeah. I think you just got to show up every day and enjoy what you do. It sounds cliche, but I think that's the biggest thing, whether it's one year you don't have the Jims and Joes, or something doesn't click, or like I said, there's things early on that I feel like I learned a lot from. And I put a lot of that on me early on. And that's definitely a frustrating thing to think back. And I feel for those kids from my first couple of years. But it really started to turn the tide right there. I hate to be that guy, but that COVID year, I really felt like we had a good team, and we were going to be able to make a run.
Yeah.
And just the momentum at our school. That's the other thing that's always made me want to coach at Whitney. You were talking about coaches on campus earlier, and we might have more baseball coaches on campus than any other school around. I mean,
Really?
yeah, if I go down the list, our first baseball coach, Brett Hunter, he was the baseball coach my freshman and JV year. He opened the program. He was there the day they put the seed down on the field. He put the foul poles in,
Wow.
and he's been all over the campus. Awesome guy, great energy, and he runs the BITA class now, the construction class, building industries and technology
Hmm.
class, and all of our boys are in that class, and we've been able to do great projects every year with his help. We did our scoreboard, our backstop. We're putting a new bullpen in right now. A lot of his help in that and being able to have the kids involved with it. So it's huge having him on campus. My high school coach when I was on varsity, Rob Dorchek, he's an on-campus teacher. He teaches geology and sciences, and he teaches the dual enrollment kinesiology class. Amazing guy. He would be a great guy for you to have on this podcast. Just he's a guru of mental game stuff.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, man.
He's awesome. Keep going down the line. Scott Seffens, he's pretty much my right-hand man on our coaching staff. He's my first base coach. And he was a head coach for a long time. I think his first head coaching job was at River City in 2002. And he's been at River City, Vista del Lago, Folsom. And he showed up on our doorstep a couple of years ago. Our assistant principal is Jeff Dietrich, who is a great baseball coach in his own right at Del Oro.
Yep.
One of our other math teachers, Joel Williams, he played some college baseball himself, and he's our soccer coach and runs a great soccer program. He's the CIF State Coach of the Year right now. So we have just so many amazing coaches on our campus. John Gonzalez, he's one of our discipline techs. He's our JV assistant coach. I just keep going. There's so many, and it's just,
that's wild.
It's amazing the great leaders of men that we have on our campus that we can surround the kids in our program with. And it just seems to grow every year. And it just makes me feel almost like I'm just a cog in the wheel in what we're doing out there. Because wherever you look, there's somebody who knows what these kids are going through, knows what we're trying to do out there, and truly gets it because they've been in the trenches. And our kids see that. And I don't know if they understand it right now, but when they look back in 5-10 years, they can go, holy cow, we had a lot of baseball guys on that campus. So
yeah, well, you're 100% right. They probably won't get it until later. And we hear that all the time when we talk to coaches or athletes. They're like, man, I didn't think about it back when I was playing, but then 10 years down the road, they're like, I was I'd be sitting in the living room with my kids, my wife, my husband, whatever it may be, and they're like, and then this message or this phrase from my coach would just hit me. It's like, oh yeah, I remember when they used to say that. It's wild how that works. And that's what somebody said on this podcast one time. It's like, you have to think about it as you're planting the seed that you may never see the tree of, right? But you got to know that the seed that you're planting is going to develop and grow at some point. You just may not be able to see the tree, and that's what you want anyways. Just go off and do great things, and whether I know it or not, I know I planted that seed. So man, that's a ridiculous amount of influence on that campus, but I love it. I like what you said too. It's like, unfortunately, there's a lot of, especially if we're talking about guys specifically, there are a lot of guys out there that, the father situation may not be the best, whether they're not present, whether they are there, but just not present, or, whatever the situation may be. And so that's when, it sounds cliche, we talk about all the time, but like that role of a coach, especially a male coach, is super important in some of those dudes' lives because they may not get it anywhere else. And so that one point of contact from a coach or a teacher, or in your guys' case, a teacher and a coach, they're around you all day. And we talk about it all the time, and you know this better than anybody. Most of the time, you're around those athletes more than their parents are during season. Okay? And especially as a teacher, you have a ton of influence. And so when you have great men and women that are willing to be coaches and teachers and that have that influence, there's nothing better than that. It really is a special thing. You guys don't get paid enough, but it is, it's a cool
awesome
thing
though. Yeah. And I think on top of that too, just the learning aspect of it, the amount of different ways we're able to communicate different skills, whether it's player development on the field or if it's off the field in the classroom, whatever it is, they're hearing it from every which way, every different way you can think. So really cool.
They can't escape it. And you guys all know each other too. So it's like, you can't do something in front of Coach Watt or Mr. Watt, depending on what your relationship is and whether you're an athlete or just a student. But it's like, other coaches and other, teachers are going to see it. Like, it sounds like it's a pretty tight knit community in that school too, which is cool. Like, everybody having that same vision and going the same direction is massive for sure. So, no, it's just awesome. That's crazy. I can't get over the fact that you guys have that many people with baseball background. That's wild. Anyways, let me ask you this, kind of taking in a different direction. What's your favorite baseball team?
I'm a Giants fan.
There we go.
Giants fan. Yeah,
Big news yesterday, huh? Great.
Yeah.
I was actually recording a podcast when I got the notification. I'm like, oh, All right. I would love to look. It was like only halfway through the podcast. So I'm like, I would love to look more into this, but I'm gonna have
Yeah.
to really focus on the interview right now.
Yeah.
But
What do you think about it? What do you think about the Correa signing?
uh, well, there's part of me that finds it funny because my brother's a Dodgers fan, so he's not
Okay.
happy for multiple reasons. But it's a lot of man, it's a lot of years, and it's wild
Yeah.
to think about. I mean, somebody on the radio today said, so Crawford's 35 right now. That'd be like if Crawford plays 6 more years. Is
Yeah.
basically what that's going to equal out to, and that's a wild thought, especially for a shortstop.
That was the
Um,
first thing I thought too. I was like, that's a lot of years.
yeah. Well, how old was Omar Vizquel when he retired?
He was pretty old. Like he was in his 40s, I
He
think.
was in his
I'm not
40s.
sure.
So
Yeah. I'm not
I'm
sure
not
how
saying,
far into it, but yeah.
I mean, I don't think Correa is going to be that, but if he was, I mean, like
Yeah.
it could be worse, but yeah, it's a lot of years. What do you think though?
Yeah. It's a lot of years. I think it's a good get for the short term, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. It's just so much unknown. Who knows?
Yeah.
Different guy when he's 40. I mean,
Right. Yeah. It's going to be, it's going to be an interesting year. It was,
yeah.
yeah, I don't know. It's going to be just the whole division. It got wild, especially with everything the Padres did.
Yeah.
And I don't know where they found all that money, but yeah, just continue to just load up. So
Yeah.
we'll see how
They're
it works
still
out.
trying to give it out. People are turning it down.
I know. I know. We could talk about the Giants forever because things are starting to pick up a little bit. But well, so let me ask you this. So obviously you've mentioned the influence of coaches on your campus right now,
Mhm.
but I always love to ask with coaches, when they were playing and back in the day when they were an athlete themselves, I feel like we always can look back at a coach that was incredibly influential in our lives. Who is that coach for you? Who is a coach that you had where you're like, that I had some great coaches, but that one right there was the one that had the greatest impact. And why was that?
Okay. I like the question. That's a tough one, Josh. There's so many.
That's a good problem to have though.
Oh, yeah, it's a good problem to
Some
have.
guys are like, I haven't
Man,
had a good
yeah,
coach. So I can't even answer that question. I'm like,
yeah,
that's a bummer, but honest. But yeah, so you have too many good coaches. That's good.
yeah. I mean, I've already spoke on Coach Dorchak a little bit. He was my varsity coach for my junior and senior year there when I was at Whitney as a player. And man, the man taught me so much.
Yeah.
He was just a great leader. Everything mental game to the nuts and bolts of the game. He was very intense. It's been really cool to see him in a different light. Not as much as a coach anymore, but he was very intense when I was in high school, and I responded well to that
Yeah.
type of coaching. But I would say him, and then also Matt Kozderka, who was our assistant coach when I was at Willamette. He's now the head coach at Lewis and Clark College in Portland. Just another great coach. He was a pitcher as well. Another pretty intense guy. And I just learned so much from him as well. I could go down the list. I've already named like half of those guys.
Yeah.
As is, because a lot of them are still on our campus. But
man, that's awesome.
But yeah, I mean, there's a reason I'm a coach today, and it's because I had a good experience as an athlete with my coaches. I mean, I think that's the bottom line. So
no, 100%. Because like I said before, there's people, and I'm sure you know people too, that when they were playing, they had such a bad experience at one point, such a negative experience with a coach that they just, I mean, that was like the last time they played ball, because they're like, I'm done with it. I'm done with the whole thing because of this bad experience. And then I know other people, they may not be playing anymore, but like I said, those life lessons that coach taught them were so valuable that they still quote them today. And if they're coaching, they still kind of preach those things now, which is a pretty cool sign of a great coach and a great influence. And I've said this before on this podcast, one of the years we were doing Character Combine, one of the speakers had a book and it was called 1 in a Million. And the whole concept is if you have impact on one person, then the hope is that from that impact, they will go out and take that positivity and pass it on to the next person or multiple people. And so then if you were somehow able to trace back at the end of your life, look back at all the people you influenced, hopefully because of that one person, it would be 1 million people, which is a pretty wild thought.
You might concept.
You're going to get there a little quicker than other people because you have, however many guys on your team each year. So that's pretty cool. That's the nice thing about coaching is like you have an opportunity to be a positive influence on so many people at one time. And, that's why we do this podcast, man, because we believe in the work that you guys do as coaches. And we also believe in the platform that athletes have within their campuses, especially with social media. and everything like that athletes have at their fingertips. Like they're
Oh,
just
definitely.
athletes are just more well known now. You know what I mean? So do you guys have anything in place for social media? Because I mean, you are a younger coach, so I feel like you have an advantage, even though it's always changing. But like you do have a
Yeah.
little bit of an advantage over some of the older coaches that are like, what is TikTok? What is this? You know what I mean? Like at least you kind of
Yeah.
have a better understanding. Like what kind of things do you have in place? Like, do you guys have a social media contract? Like what do you guys do to kind of keep everything at bay?
In terms of that, that's more of something that we kind of attack as a whole athletic department at Whitney High School.
Oh, cool.
And really we have a full athletic handbook, and we go over our policies in terms of how to be responsible on social media, because it's a great tool, but it can also be dangerous at the same time.
Right.
Unfortunately, as we see every day. Um, but if we focus on the good side of that social media, there's so much good that we can do for our athletes, whether it's tweeting out the game scores and individual stats and all that stuff. I'm a Twitter guy. I don't have TikTok or any of that. So I'm mostly on there promoting our kids, and it's pretty wild to see the response that you get, and kind of how baseball Twitter has evolved into a recruiting aspect
Yeah.
these days. So there's so many positives. At the same time, it's dangerous. So it's a constant reminder. We do have conversations throughout the season as different things happen, whether it be some of the unfortunate things that happened to football teams this fall based on the
Right.
racist posts. Like
Right.
those are times when we bring the whole team in, and I'm going to address that and talk about those things. So we just try to learn as a group as much as we can, and hope our kids make the right decisions in those instances.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's such an important thing for a coach to do because you know, um, obviously, as an athlete, that's going to affect. Obviously, in the small picture, it's going to affect whether or not they can play. It affects their school career, but then beyond that, it could have even more negative ramifications depending on the severity of whatever happens. And
Yeah,
yeah, you're
internet
right.
is
Like
forever.
100%. And yeah, that's a whole. We've done episodes on that before because it's such a big topic. And you're right. Everything that happened for that football team this fall is a perfect example of that. It's just a dumb thing you do, and unfortunately, like I've always said, not everybody has your best in mind, and so all they need is that one moment where you mess up, and it all kind of comes crumbling down. Um, but another question. This is always a fun question for me. I don't know if people enjoy this question because I do kind of put you on the spot, but I'm going to ask it anyway. It's a staple of our show. Uh, Obviously, like I said, this is called Home Team. So our whole tagline is, even though we wear different uniforms, we're all a part of the same home team, right? Like as coaches and athletes, if your goal is not only win, but also use your platform to make a difference in your community, in your families, one day in your careers, like if that's your goal and you want to make a positive impact using your platform, then we're all a part of the same home team here in Sacramento. That
Yeah.
being said, we still want to win. And so we're looking at our opponent, like we want to crush them. That's just how it goes. That being said, I also feel like competition makes us better, right? And when we have good competitors, it's going to help us raise our game. So, are there a coach, maybe a couple coaches that you coach against that you love coaching against because you know that when you coach against them, they're going to bring out the very best in you and your team?
Yeah, I'd say it's anytime we play another SFL opponent in
Mm-hmm.
our league, whether it's Oak Ridge, Grant Bay, Folsom, Del Oro, Rockland. I mean, every team in our league is pretty strong in baseball. It's pretty amazing to see. I know that's the case for a lot of sports in the SFL, but it's a test once you get to league. So we try our best to schedule games in preseason where we're going to get tested the same way we do in league, and it's coaches who've been doing it for a long time, established good programs that have been good for a while at most of those schools. So those are always the most fun games to coach, and most fun opponents to coach against, because we play 3-game series for one. I think that's the big thing for baseball that's different maybe from other sports, like
Right.
you played baseball, but
Yeah.
when you play a team Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, or Monday, Wednesday, Friday, it's different than a one-off preseason game.
Right.
Baseball's kind of weird. A one-off preseason game, you could have your number one going against their number 3, and you
Mm-hmm.
don't really know which team's better. But once you get down to that third game of the series in league play in the SFL where teams are so deep, that's when it really gets fun. So I'd say those dynamics, those coaches, those programs, I think all the programs in our league are doing a pretty awesome job on the diamond. So always fun to play other SFL teams.
Man, it's so much more fun when all the teams are competitive because
Mhm.
like you look around and I can't think I'm not going to call anybody out, but there are some leagues over the years where it's like, man, this is so lopsided and like this can't be fun for the better teams. It's definitely not fun for the teams that are at the bottom of the standings, but it's just like, man, I never understood it when coaches wouldn't put their teams up against better competition. So um, I always have a lot of respect when coaches do that because it's like, yeah, I mean, at a certain point, like winning's great, but if you're not being challenged for those wins, like, is it really that valuable? You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
It
There's
looks
something to be
good,
said for strength of schedule. Yeah.
100%. Now, I'm not great with the years. Did you play against Logan Webb?
I actually played Little League with Logan Webb.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
I was 12 at Tri-State of Little League, and he was 9 years old. So, and he was probably better than me then. So didn't play against each other in high school because I was just that much older than him, just enough.
Sure.
But 2006 Major Cardinals, Tri-State of Little League, shout out there.
There you go. Nice.
Yeah, we were teammates for that spring.
That's pretty cool. It's always fun seeing those guys. I mean, there's a couple guys that I played against in pony ball, like Lars Anderson, who was in the Red Sox
Yeah,
organization for quite a while. It just, I mean, it's a different thing. Like he was like a giant among us boys, and just it's like I don't even know why we played today. Like no one's gonna hit the ball for this guy, and
all
no
right.
one can get a ball past him either when you're pitching. So um, yeah, it's always cool seeing like those guys from here, go do their thing. In fact, my wife and I were back when we were dating, and I think my brother and my dad went as well. We saw Elk Grove back in the day win their NorCal title against was it St. Mary's of Stockton, I think, and
Yeah, I think so.
that's a wild team looking back now because you have so many major leaguers that were on the field. You have Dylan Carlson, Rowdy Tellez, Dom Nunez. Um, I'm blanking. Derek Hill.
Madrigal. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Madrigal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody. I'm like, this is ridiculous. And we knew how good they were then. I've never seen a high school team that good. It was the
No.
most ridiculous thing
I
I've
mean,
ever
it got
seen.
national recognition.
Yeah.
As the last couple of years, just seeing how many of those guys have made it
Yeah.
to the peak of baseball. It's pretty cool.
It's man, I love seeing it. And let me ask
Yeah.
you this. I've always wondered, and maybe you have better insight than I do because you're in the baseball world and you're fully in it. There's so many. I feel like every time I watch a Giants game, anytime I watch a game, like I feel like there's always someone from Sacramento or the nearby area. Like what is it about this city that just produces baseball players? I feel like they're doing it at a ridiculous rate.
Yeah. I don't know what it is, but I just know that the baseball is really good in Sacramento and has been
Yeah,
for a long time.
we're just gonna leave it at that because I
Yeah.
don't nobody can explain it, but it's like
Nope.
it's just wild. Literally every game, it's like there's some connection. Um, man, sorry, I put my notes real quick. I had another question for you. Oh, so let me ask you this, and I'm actually really interested to hear your thoughts on this because you grew up in Rockland. I always
Mhm.
love it when teams, obviously, you compete on the field, you have good team chemistry, you build up a good culture within your team. But I think a part of that good culture is being involved in the community that you compete in.
Yeah.
Do you guys, I mean, do you find value in that? And if so, what kind of things do you guys do to stay connected to the community? Because obviously, when you're in that community, like you said, it's small, right? So people are going to
Yeah.
see the Whitney baseball hoodies, they're going to see the hats, they're going to see, all of that stuff. And so they're going to recognize baseball players. So how do you guys use how do you guys use your platform to make the community better?
Yeah. I think the community outreach piece is huge for high school sports. Just for helping out not just our community. It's a two-way street, Josh. I mean, for
Yeah.
the kids and for the people that we're reaching out to and how much it means to everybody in our community. The biggest thing that we do every year, and it started my first year at Whitney, was we do a Halloween game. It's kind of
Yeah.
been a trend for the last 10 years or so where you see colleges, and it's really evolved into everybody is playing Halloween games now where you get to dress up in the Halloween costume and go play baseball. So we've been doing that ever since I've been at Whitney, and I told the kids as soon as they brought it up, I was like, well, we're not just going to do it to do it. We're going to do it for something. and they came up with supporting the Matt Redding Foundation. And
Nice.
Matt Redding was a police officer who was struck and killed by a drunk driver on Highway 65,
Hmm.
just down the street
Yeah.
from our school, going on 20 years ago now. And he was pulling over to help somebody who was broken down on the side of the road, and he was sideswiped, and just an absolutely terrible thing. And his parents have been around the community. They wanted to make sure Matt's legacy lived on, and they created the Matt Redding Foundation. You can visit their website whenever you'd like as well, and they do
Awesome.
several different things, including Run Rockland, which is their big 5K thing. But we started supporting them on that Halloween game and asking our kids to get sponsors and asking for donations. First 2 years we did as an inter squad, is just our high school, and since then we've done it with our rival high school, Rockland High School, and we've switched locations every year. And it's really turned into this larger than life thing where each of our booster clubs, the families, try to make it bigger than last year. So this year at Rockland, we had the mayor out there, the whole school board. We got a police helicopter flyover, all
Really?
kinds of stuff, all for a good cause, raising money for the Matt Redding Foundation. And they're, like I said, they're an amazing family, and it's great to be able to do something like that for our community. What the foundation ultimately does is they give scholarships to Whitney High School, Rockland High School, and Del Oro graduates who want to be first responders of some sort. So
Wow.
it's just a great way to keep his legacy alive, as well as get our kids involved in the community. So that's the biggest way that we really do community outreach every year. And there's so many different things we can do with that. At the same time, the other big one that we do is in the spring, we do a strikeout cancer game.
Okay.
And that's been something since I was in high school. Coach Dorchek started that in 2011. And that's taken on so many different meanings. You figure out how many different stories there are, not just in our community, but really on our campus, our school campus, how many people are going through that fight. And we raise money for Stand Up to Cancer every year for that. And we have people come out and throw first pitches, and we make it a whole big thing as well. So that's really cool to have our kids be able to play for somebody in their lives, or somebody else in our community, and raise money for charity that way as well. So we do something in the fall, something in the spring. And like I said, I mean, it brings perspective. It gets our kids involved, and people are more than appreciative.
That's awesome. And again, man, just another opportunity for a life lesson for all your athletes. And it's cool. I love hearing that too, man, that it's a continuous thing. Like it's something that, they were doing when you were playing, or it's something
Yeah.
that they do year in and year out, or other schools in the area are involved. Because that's, I mean,
Yeah.
again, like going back to the home, what we talk about home team, like we're all pursuing that kind of that same mission, right? Like, obviously you want to win, but you're trying to have a positive impact. And so coming together for that, still playing the game that you guys love and doing it for a great cause, man, there's nothing better than that. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
love seeing that
Traditions
stuff
are
get
important.
tracked.
You can't beat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, for sure. The traditions, like the Halloween game. I know my Casserole High School where I played ball. They do a Halloween game now, and it's just those fun things that, like, I think you pass on to future generations of ball players. They expect it coming in because it's
Yeah.
gets talked about, and then when you attach it to a great cause, now it's like the whole community rallies behind it and gets excited, and that's a cool thing, man. Because like I feel like people, for the most part, most people want to do something good. They want to be a part of some good cause, but some people just don't know where to start. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to get involved with something. And so you guys are basically blazing the trail for that. You're like, hey, if you don't know what to do, come give to this cause. However, you guys, take donations and all that stuff, just come see a baseball game. You're contributing towards a good cause, and you're giving people that opportunity. So not only your athletes, but also the community. That's a cool thing, man. I appreciate
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's great. It's awesome.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Just, we have a couple more questions and I'll get you out of here. Cause like I said, 45 minutes, pushing it a little
Yeah.
bit,
No
but
worries.
we'll make it work. Who's your all-time favorite ball player?
All-time favorite ball player. Man, that's a tough question. Definitely Giants. I think just growing up, seeing him throw in all the World Series, I got to say Madison Bumgarner, being a pitcher myself, aspiring to be a Bulldog as much as he was, for our team. So definitely Mad Bum. Just everything about the guy, his mound presence,
Yep.
The way he pitched, his pitchability, all of that. He's a larger than life kind of figure for the Giants there for a long time. So can't beat that guy, Mad Bum.
I was gonna say, man, the facial, I don't know if it's the facial hair or what it is, but you kind of give off the Mad Bum vibe a little bit.
I haven't gotten that one before, but I'll take it.
Hey, well, I'll give it to you, man. Now, let me ask you this: Are you? Because Mad Bum's a big guy. Are you
Yeah.
are you a big guy?
I'm 6'3".
You're a big dude.
So
What, Mad Bum's like what, 6'4", 6'5"?
he's a big dude. I'm
Yeah,
big, but I ain't that big. Yeah, he's 6'4", 6'5", and every bit of it. Yeah.
yeah. Well, that's wild when you see what Sean Jelly out there, and
Yeah, that guy.
what almost. I mean, he's basically 7 foot with
Yeah,
the
he's
spikes, right?
6'11", right? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. And
that's
spikes, yeah.
wild. Wild seeing that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Do you remember? I remember I used to be a huge fan of like going way back, like Rod Beck. You know,
Yeah,
you as a
shooter.
closer. Yeah,
Yeah.
the
Mullet.
mustache. Yeah. The like that arm dangle I used to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was. I used to think I could throw that hard. I'm like, now that I realize, my dad's like, no, maybe we should maybe try to slow it. Just go for a little control right now because you're not gonna throw that hard. I'm like, all right, pops. I appreciate the
Yeah.
honesty. But man, yeah, I'll tell you. Not that we need to keep talking about the Giants, but it is interesting too because I don't know how many ballparks you've been to, but like sometimes we forget like how lucky we are. It's a beautiful, beautiful
Oh,
ballpark.
we're so blessed with Oracle Park now. Is that what we're calling it? I can't keep
Oracle.
up. I always want to call it SBC or AT&T.
I'll still drop
Yeah,
a
it's
Pac Bell
Oracle
every
now.
once in a while.
Yeah, Pac Bell.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, yeah, it's awesome. Try to go to as many games as we can every year. And me and my
yeah.
girlfriend, we do. She's a Giants fan too. So it's amazing what we're blessed with in San Fran there. Yeah.
Yeah, man, I can't get enough of it. I just, yeah, it's the I love Buster Posey. You know, I've loved the Giants my whole life, but I'll tell you what, my favorite guy right now is I love Mike Trout, and
Okay.
I've said this before, and I'll say it again. My wife might be listening to this. She's concerned about Mike Trout. Like I can't meet Mike Trout because she's like, I just don't trust you around Mike Trout. Like I love man crush on that dude, and she knows
I
it.
mean, I don't blame you. Yeah, he's
Thank you.
stud.
That's what I'm saying. So she gets it now. But yeah, we haven't gone to an Angels game for that reason. So,
Huh.
but yeah, no, man, just a beast, just a beast. So many good ball players. That's like, it's just fun to watch. Like all these guys
Yeah.
that are so athletic and so gifted at this game. Like it's just, yeah, it makes me realize why I didn't go further than I did. I'm like, yeah, I'll watch it. You know, I'm not gonna.
Yeah, they're playing a different game out there.
100%, 100%. Especially just now, it's just the physicality now, and you see all these guys. I mean, especially as a pitcher, right? Like you said, you topped out at in the high school level, or no, at college. Would you top out at 90,
Like 88. Yeah, I probably sat
88?
like 82 to 86. Yeah.
I topped out at 83. There's a tournament in Fresno. I'll never forget it. My dad got it on video. I'm like, I'm gonna save that for the rest of my life because I'll never be able to do that again. But yeah, now these guys are throwing. I mean, 95 plus, like 95, just kind of mid range there, and then you have these guys that are just throwing 100 plus. I mean, Duvall he hit like 104, 105 this year.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean his arm action is wild, and he's a beast.
Yeah, 100%. Anyways, I got off track. That's what happens on this podcast. I get off track, especially when
That's
I find
all right.
a Giants fan. It goes off the rails. So let me ask you this one last question, man, before we get out of here. This is kind of the big question that we'd like to end with. Again, thinking about this home team, thinking about your own hometown, your alma mater, all of that. What is the legacy that you want to leave when it's all said and done? What is the legacy you want to leave for the home team here in Sacramento, and more specifically, your home team of Rockland?
It's kind of cliche, but I think it's people. I think that's really what it is. As many people as you can impact in your time doing whatever you do. That's how you leave your legacy. Whatever it may be. I mean, like our kids went on an amazing run last year, winning that D1 section championship, and they're going to remember that for the rest of their lives. And I'm happy to be a part of that.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, because what we do as coaches and teachers is just kind of facilitate their experience, and our goal is just to give them the best experience we can. And I think if we can impact them at some point along the way in our job there, then that's what our legacy is. And it makes you a better person as a teacher, coach, podcaster, whatever it may be, because I mean, it's more than just what you do day to day in the job, how you do one thing's how you do everything. So you
Yeah.
would hope that transfers into your personal life and everything else that you got going on. So I think that's how you leave legacy. It's in the people that you've been able to interact with in your life, and hopefully there's something that you've passed on that they'll continue to pass on as well. Kind of going back to that book you were talking about earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love it, man. I lied. I have one more question for you before we get you out of here, because something you
Yeah, what
said
you got?
reminded me of this. Because I had this written down, I just kind of skipped over it. So one of the things is interesting to me when a team wins is obviously like you had some rougher seasons leading up to the championship season, which, having losing seasons or even just maybe it's a winning season, but not, where you wanted to be. Those present a lot of challenges, but
Hmm.
obviously you want to win, but then winning can also present challenges too. I don't know what the age range is for your athletes. I don't know if you have a lot of young guys, if you have a lot of guys that were seniors last year that won't be here this year, but how do you kind of manage the expectations and maybe, um, getting lost in the excitement of everything, thinking like, hey, we won last year. Let's just run it back. Where it's like, okay, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and you don't want to get sidetracked by the success. Like, how do you manage all of those different emotions that come with winning?
Yeah, I think that's a really tough thing to do. I mean, you want to say once you've won, all you can do is go win again,
Yeah.
but it's much harder than that. And we have most of our team returning. We had one of our corner outfielders was one of our senior starters, and then we had another outfielder who played a lot against lefties. But for the most part, 8 of those guys in the field were sophomores or juniors. So
Wow.
most of those guys are coming back. So it's trying to manage expectations and understand that we're not chasing people anymore. We're being chased.
Yeah.
Because last year we were the underdogs and people didn't believe in our team, and it was really cool to see our kids buy in and have that big underdog mentality. I don't know who it was, but somebody called us a team that was 1 year away, and the kids really stuck with that all year long. And now it's a new challenge because we are the champs, and people are looking at us. We got a target on our back, so it's how to manage those expectations and keep kids hungry. And baseball's a weird sport, man. I don't know if we were the most talented team on the field at any point on any day. We were the team that came out with the victory. We figured out ways to win, though. So I mean, we had some crazy runs in our season. In the playoffs, we had a couple games that were pretty wild. Our first round playoff game, we were down, I think 3 runs in the fifth, and we came back and won in the eighth inning. Second round against St. Mary's, we were down 4-0 with 1 out in the seventh, and we came back and won 5-4. So like, there's a lot of things that really got to go right for us to win that section.
Right.
And we can't forget that. That's going to be the big thing and one of the big messages for our kids to remember, and try to stay hungry and just find a way to continue to get better.
Right.
Because it's got to be you against you at the end of the day. Once again, I know it's cliche, but it's the truth. So
Yeah.
I don't know if that answers your question. I don't know if there is a good answer to that question, because that's one of the hardest things to do in sports. I mean, people say hangover for a reason when it comes to championships. So
Yeah.
you see teams fall to that every year. So we'll see. I'm excited. I love the group that we have coming back. Love our guys. It's really fun to coach every day with this group, the group of kids we have out there, the group of coaches, the families. So really excited for our year. Excited to see how they respond. But yeah, that's kind of how we're going to attack it. We'll see.
Yeah. No, you 100% answered the question, man. And I think it does come down to that hunger and keeping that hunger there. And like you said, going from hunting to being hunted, very different thing, and a whole different set of things that you have to manage and deal with. But it sounds like, based on, man, just this short conversation with you, based on all of the influence and the people that are mentoring and coaching on campus, like I think you guys will be just fine. It sounds like you guys have plenty of people there to kind of keep the athletes on the right path, man. So I'm excited, man, to see how this season goes for you. And I know it's the middle of December right now, but you guys are not far off from everything that, the whole season, running it back again, man. So I'm excited to see how everything plays out for you guys. And man, as always, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with me a little bit. We definitely appreciate you and everything you're doing for the home team here in Sacramento and in Rockland. Where can they follow? You guys have I know you guys have that was a dumb question. I follow you guys. I know you guys have social media. Where can they follow you? Where can they follow your team? All of those different things.
Yeah, so I'm on Twitter at Coach Watt 30.
Okay.
And then we do have a Twitter page for our team as well at Baseball Whitney.
Okay.
And I think our Instagram is at Whitney Baseball. All of our sport accounts at Whitney, we have a maroon background and our W logo with the sport name below it. So that's how you know it's the current active account too. So if anybody's looking, there you go. But thank you, Josh. Thanks for having me on. Great conversation. I look forward to following what you guys continue to do here at home team as well.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. Yeah, like I always say, man, you guys, coaches like yourself and others, man, you're why we do it, because we I just get to come on here and talk about sports and talk, kind of pick your brain. You guys are actually doing the hard work, man. So hard work. So I appreciate that for sure. And yeah, man, down the road, would love to chat again. Hopefully in the spring, we can chat after you have that second banner.
Yeah, there we go. I like that idea.
There you go, man. Or, if things go well for the Giants, maybe we'll have you back on again. If it goes bad, if it goes south again, like I can't have you on for that reason, but
yeah, it'd be tough.
It would be tough. And I don't feel like taking that to the air. So anyways, man, hey, thank you so much. Happy holidays to you and your family. And we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Thank you, Josh.
Absolutely.